Welcome to TestTrue, your go-to hub for professional knowledge sharing. In the previous tutorial, we discussed SOAP and REST are the two key types of web services. In this session, we will take a deeper dive into SOAP, exploring its features and functionalities in detail. We will discuss about an introduction to the SOAP protocol, the protocols used in SOAP, the HTTP method utilized in SOAP, the request and response structure of SOAP messages, and practical demonstration testing the one of the SOAP service. Bit of a recap. In the last session, we explored about WSDL and UDDI. WSDL stands for Web Service Description Language, which basically a XML-based document that outlines the entire functionality exposed by a web service. Generally, the service provider publishes this WSDL document into a registry, which is called as an UDDI. Client gets this WSDL by performing a search in UDDI register. So WSDL and UDDI are the integral part of the SOAP. So SOAP basically uses WSDL as a description language to understand the list of functionalities that are exposed by the web service, along with how to use these services, what are the parameters to be passed, etc. etc. SOAP stands for Simple Object Access Protocol. It is used for exchanging the information between client and server over the internet. SOAP is a platform and language independent, making it suitable for integration across diverse systems. Let us understand what is platform and language independent. So the basically here the communication happens between client and server. So client might be an web application or a mobile application or a kind of a chatbot which may be developed with different kind of technologies. The web page might have developed using a Java, using an Angular JS, using a PHP, or the mobile applications can be developed using an Android or Swift for iOS. But the server program or a web service is completely developed using a Node.js or using some kind of Spring Boot or some kind of backend services. So, irrelevant of the language that is used to develop the client and the server, uh, this protocol, uh, the protocol allows the seamless communication between them. That is why it is called as platform and language independent. SOAP uses XML format to exchange the data between the server and the client. Both the request and response format will be of type XML. SOAP mainly uses HTTP Hypertext Transfer Protocol or SMTP Simple Mail Transfer Protocol for exchanging the information between the client and server. SOAP uses both POST and GET methods, but POST is predominantly used by the client to request an service from the service provider or a server. This is because SOAP supports large and complex messages. Along with this, SOAP also supports additional security feature. It also supports and reliability in terms of handling the fault messages as part of the response body. In summary, SOAP is simple object access protocol which uses XML to exchange the information between the client and server. It uses the HTTP and SMTP protocols, and it predominantly uses POST method to request a service from the service provider. Along with the basic feature, SOAP also provides an advanced or an extension features. These are mainly to do with security. So I have listed three of them. One of them is WS security. It helps in adding the authentication, encryptions and signatures mainly to protect the messages that is being transferred between the client and the server. WS addressing manages addressing within the SOAP headers. WS policy defines the service policies for security and reliability. So these extension features are mainly related with the security. Because of its strong security feature, SOAP is still being used in many of the organization. Even the rest is being so modern and it is easy to implement, but some of the organization is still uses SOAP protocol because of his security, because of its additional security features. We learned that SOAP uses the XML format to exchange the information between the server and the client. A typical SOAP request and response consists of following component: envelope, header, and a body. Envelope is a root element that identifies the XML document as a SOAP message. Okay, this is the envelope, and this is header. Header contains a metadata such as authentication, transaction details, and other attributes relevant for processing the request. It contains a metadata to process the request, and one of the important thing that it carries is the authentication. The body basically contains the actual SOAP message, the content of the request and response, which usually includes the operation being invoked and any parameter required for the operation. This is how the typical the request looks like. It consists of the starts with an envelope, which is root element, which is an header in this is an header part, header tag. This particular tag is This is an example SOAP request message. It always starts with envelope, which is root element, followed by an header. Header is basically an optional which carries a metadata. Along with that, it also carries the header information. The body is the important one. This particular request message is to get the weather data. So what we are doing here is basically we are passing a city for which we wanted to get the weather information, right? This is how the typical request looks like. And the response is also of similar format. It contains an envelope, it contains an header information, basically a metadata to decode the body sometimes which is needed. And here you see in the body you have two elements. It's a response to the weather request. It says that current temperature is 75 and it is a sunny day. This is how the typical request and response of a SOAP looks like. In case if the request is not successful, then generally you will get a different error codes, right? For 200 for successful. Um, so I am explaining it about in the REST context. The 500 for server error or 404 is something not found and things like that. If the operation is not successful, in case of a SOAP, you will get a complete description about the fault, right? What went wrong, which is included in the body of the response. If you see under the body, under the response body, you have another element called SOAP fault, which basically describes what kind of error that has been occurred during the operation. Here it says that the server where you are sending a request is not available or something like that. Server not available. That is why we got the 500 response. It says that unable to retrieve the weather data at this point in time from the server. This is typically how the request and response message structure of a SOAP. We will do a hands-on testing a simple SOAP service. For this, I'll be using a tool called SOAP UI, which is a free tool from SmartBear, which is a very good tool to test a SOAP services. Let's search some simple WSDLs for testing purpose. This document basically lists out the number of simple WSDLs that we can use it for testing. So I'll be using this particular WSDL for my testing, which is basically an calculator. And let's go to our SOAP project and try to create a new project which is of type SOAP and give the project name before giving the project name, let us copy paste this. By default it gives a project name. Let me tell SOAP calculator. Okay, testing. Let's give OK. Now SOAP UI basically parses this WSDL and it creates the tests. So in the last tutorial I explained the structure of WSDL. If you see here, SOAP UI has passed the WSDL and listed all the operations that are exposed by the calculator service. Let us go to add. We want to test, suppose I want to test this, click on this, double click on this request, and it basically gives a sample request structure, right, which will be decoded from the WSDL. WSDL also tells you how the request should look like, right, what are the parameters it should take, and based on that it basically gives me samples or a template structure for this particular request. And you see this takes two integers. Here it is given a question mark. I will fill this with the proper values like 10 and 20. And if you see, the message structure always starts with envelope, under which there is an header which is an optional parameter. Here I don't have any parameters to pass, because it is a free one. I don't need any kind of an authentication. There is also not any of the metadata is also been passed. And this is a body which performs an add operation, and these are the two parameters it takes, and it will return me the result, which is the sum of these two numbers. Let us execute this request. This request is successful, and if I go to this part, this says that the result is 30, which is basically correct. And if I go to the raw part, you can see here it uses the post. It performed the post operation, right? It basically performed the post operation. The as I explained earlier also, predominantly SOAP uses, irrelevant of any of the operation, predominantly SOAP uses the post method. Okay, this is how SOAP operates. And here it says that I have to pass the integer. Let us try to pass a, let us try to pass a floating number. Let's see what happens. And you see it gave me an error because this data type is basically not supported. Let us see the what the response says, and see the response gave us the fault code, right, which will be in the body. Is unable to convert this number. So there is a function in the server that converts, because when we pass this particular request, right, all the parameters are considered as a strings, and in the server these parameters are converted from the string to integer. When it try to perform this operation, this basically fails. Okay, so that is how the fault code is also been given here. Try with the string. For example, let us give test true. Now also it should fail with the same message. It is again a fault code. See, it is not able to convert this particular string into a number. So only if I give a valid number, it takes, right? See, it's successful. Similarly, we can also perform other operations. Let us try division operation. It also takes two parameters, 10 and 5. Answer should be 2. Let me give this as a 0. Let us check what happens. See, again it gave an error. It says that, yeah, it is unable to do, unable to, there was an exception. Okay, yeah, this is how, this is basically a simple demonstration testing the SOAP services. This brings us to the end of this tutorial. We covered the following topics: an introduction to SOAP protocol, the different types of protocols, that is HTTP and SMTP used in protocol, the HTTP method, that is post, utilized in SOAP, the request and response structure of SOAP messages along with the fault, the fault operation, when the operation goes fault, how this is also included as part of the response body. And also we did a practical demonstration of testing a simple SOAP service with an WSDL. I hope you enjoyed learning with me. If you find this video useful, please consider subscribing to my channel for more content. Thank you.